I'm good.
Hello, buddy. Hey, Rita.
Hi, Dave. How are you? Huh? Okay. I guess. Whatever. Ay, 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 ay. Hi.
How are you, sir? Ken, how are you? I'm good, good. Mr. Penenbaum, how are you?
See, we have kids here that
Yeah.
need signatures.
I see your bride out there tonight.
Yes, indeed.
For when he's ready?
Podium? Okay.
Is it 6 o'clock? I don't have my.
It's past.
6:07.
I'd like to call this meeting of the City Council to order. Please rise for the invocation, followed by a pledge of the flag. Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, here in the state of this city, let us hope that our citizens will rectify all their needs and wants so that we can deliver to them a city that is not only high in quality, but also a city that is effective in its delivery. Thank you. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana?
Here.
And Mayor Panto?
Here. It's not on there. It's on the agenda. What is? We spoke last night. Approval of the agenda, please.
Will approve.
Second.
Mr. Ettinger?
Go ahead.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
At this time, we present the state of the city.
Mayor, action on the minutes.
Oh, I thought that's what, oh, that was approval of the agenda. Go ahead, action on the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, now we'll have the state of the city. As I present this state of the city, we're a city emerging from what has been the most challenging period of our lives, a time that our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will learn about in their history books. Whether personally, professionally, or otherwise, we've all been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. As mayor, I can tell you it's been a time of doubt and distress, but ultimately one of proven resilience encouraged by our city, but it did not diminish our drive to move Easton forward. We are now coming out of that very dark place in our history with a perspective that inspires us and reignites us. I am proud to announce that we continue to move forward in positive change, and our city is wiser, stronger, and more determined than ever. We developed a series of actions necessary for the city's recovery, prioritized our city finances, supported community programs and resources to restart and assist our small businesses and maintain our first responders to provide an essential public safety services. Yesterday, we announced the formation of our Small Business Assistance Program, which will be conducted through our Department of Community and Economic Development, and we're very pleased to be able to help not only existing businesses in our city, but also businesses who want to start up. In the last year, we faced COVID pandemic. We've faced social issues. We've been fragmented in our nation between people, and recent international events out of control are making us all very stressed. And while the state of our city is good and in fact great, we're all feeling the lasting effects of these issues. I want to take the time to thank our medical community, and in particular the mental health professionals who often don't get the credit they deserve. I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, and EMS for all that they have done in the last 3 years. I want to thank our men and women in the military. as they listen to what is going on in the world today and understand that their decision to join the military during peacetime may not be in the near future. As mayor, I want to personally thank all of our city employees and my staff for the tremendous work that they are doing every day to make Easton the city we all know it can be. Lastly, I want to thank you who are here this evening to hear the state of the city, because it's been a tumultuous 3 years, and our small businesses are really on the cusp of making this a great year in 2023. During this time, one of my priorities became lobbying for the passing of the American Rescue Plan. And once that historic legislation that gave direct funding for the first time directly to municipalities was approved, I lobbied hard for our funding to go from the originally awarded $2.6 million, and we lobbied the Department of Treasury, the White House, and congressional representatives, and the assistance of the National League of Cities, the Pennsylvania Municipal League, and Congresswoman Wild and Senator Casey. We were awarded our proper allocation of $20.7 million. Without the ARPA funds, I don't know where we'd be today, but I can tell you it wouldn't be in a good place. I am happy to report that we didn't just survive the pandemic, we thrived. As a former history teacher, I need to give you a small recap of where we came from, because most people have now forgotten what Easton was like in 2008. Public drug sales, gangs, gun violence, prostitutes walking our streets, and city finances in the red. Our bond rating was just above junk bond status. We had the Bloods, the Crips, the Latin Kings, and every other nationally known gang living right here in our neighborhoods, causing fear among our residents. There was no pride left in Easton. Our residents were embarrassed to say they were from Easton, and those that could afford it moved out of the city. It's now 2023, and the state of our city is much different. We are in a course of positive change. 2023 is another year of recovery, reinvestment, and rebuilding. Easton is positioned for unprecedented growth, and the positive changes will continue based on the solid foundation we provided over the last 16 years. Our goal is now to manage this growth so that we don't lose all those assets of being a small city. We are proud of the many recognitions we also received. Last year alone, we received several, and the most important one was the Community of Distinction Award in the Lehigh Valley. Our Crayola experience was ranked as in the top 10 of all children's museums in the nation, and we thank them as well. Our accomplishments are too many to list tonight, so I won't do that and bore you. But our city grew in population for the first time in 5 decades. We exceeded $1 billion in public and private investment, and it didn't just occur in our urban center, but in our neighborhoods as well. Growing our tax base and our population provides more tax ratables, so we were able to keep real estate taxes level. That's right. We are committed to seeking and excel in all that we do to make our city safe, clean, and fiscally sound. This historic city and its citizens deserve nothing less. Our goal every day is to continue our positive changes. Beginning in the 60s, we could have been the national poster child for a decaying city. I'm just going to show this because I think this is important. This was our city. It wasn't a good city. The blighted buildings outnumbered the good buildings in it. Unfortunately, we believe very strongly that clean neighborhoods make safe neighborhoods. So we all launched a $2 million neighborhood facade restoration program that will be given to our residents to help them fix up their homes. Beginning in the 60s, we could have been the national poster child, but we started addressing it with urban renewal. Unfortunately, that did not do well for our city. Today, we can boast a vibrant urban center and safer neighborhoods. The last time we saw growth like this we are experiencing was at the turn of the 20th century. That's right, when Easton was the largest, yes, Easton was the largest of the 3 cities that make up the Lehigh Valley. We witnessed developments, and we were also possibly one of the top 5 wealthiest cities in the country. We witnessed developments like the Hotel Easton, the 401 Northampton Street building. The 3-story building on Center Square was demolished to make way for the Alpha Portland Cement headquarters, which today we call the Alpha Building. Easton was growing. We are again witnessing investments and families moving back to our neighborhoods. This year we will continue on all those programs that we started and enhance our neighborhoods and make them more attractive. State and national leaders came to Easton. We had Governor Wolf come to visit us for the groundbreaking at the ribbon cutting at the mill at Easton, our first affordable, of which will be many affordable housing projects in the city. And of course, Secretary Marcia Fudge, who herself was a former mayor in Ohio, and she was there to witness and discuss our Choice Neighborhood Grant application to improve our housing in the West Ward, similar to the Hope 6 project, the Nesson Heights project that we did in the South Side. Ensuring that Easton remains a premier small town is always our goal. It's not easy, but no one said it would be easy. While we have so much to celebrate, we have even more to look forward to, as we have much more to do to contribute and to continue to make the positive changes we all need. Amidst all the exciting projects on the horizon, we remain focused on the fundamentals: public safety, cleanliness, and services to our residents. I took attention to improving our neighborhoods and expanding our recreational offerings for our youth and seniors, implementing our affordable housing program. I want to thank all the members of the Mayor's Affordable Housing Task Force. This year, we expect to implement the Affordable Housing Plan and also, more importantly, or just as importantly, our Climate Action Plan and improve the quality of life for all of our residents. We begin in 2008 with the ominous cloud of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. We have the threat of state takeover under Act 47, and we've come a long way. Perhaps the biggest single issue we face is the economic health of our community. Our economic paradigm has undergone fundamental restructuring in the past 20 years. Gone are the mom and pop businesses, and they're all being replaced by the big box stores. We have to reverse that trend, and I think we're doing it very well. The result has been tough on many families in our entire community. It's an issue that this city administration takes very seriously, and yesterday we announced the assistance program that I talked about for small businesses. It's a top priority, and I know we can achieve our goal. As a small business owner myself for 26 years, in front of this meat counter, that's not me, by the way, that's just a stock picture. It's really important that people have the hand up and not a hand out. And I think that's exactly what this small assistance program will do in aiding people who want to start a business to be able to do so, or expand their business, or retain their business. We've had a tough year this past year in the center city and parts of the West Ward with UGI ripping up all the streets on the south side and the College Hill. Now next year we turn our attention to UGI is going to do all of the West Ward from 7th to 15th and on Ferry, Washington, Lehigh, and Butler. So we're not real happy about it, but they're under court order because of the explosion that killed several people and destroyed a whole block in Allentown. They're under court order. They have they have a year and a half left to replace all of their old cast iron pipes. So although we're not going to be happy with the inconvenience, we are happy to know that our neighborhoods are safer. As a person who just had a gas explosion back of his house and destroyed the house and people burned very badly, I understand the need to be able to make sure that our gas lines are really safe. Despite our progress, it's clear that much work remains. Affordable housing and rental units, homelessness, hunger, inflation, family sustainable jobs, new small business startups, new fire facilities, and my personal goal of a community center so our youth have the same opportunities as their suburban counterparts and to give them an alternative to the street. This community center will also need to house a senior center for our golden citizens because they need a place to socialize and exercise everything. Also, since our city or our county closed the 2 senior centers that used to be in our city. All the pieces are in place. The brighter future is not a foregone conclusion. We have to work long and hard and think outside the box to make it happen. Like when we were criticized for putting Larry Holmes Drive on a diet. Not Larry Holmes. I'm not telling him he needs to go to diet. But the road diet that we put on Larry Holmes so that we have more connectivity to our waterfront. Or the making the ring road 2-way traffic. They were all very controversial. Or starting our outdoor dining program. Or starting our winter village. They were all eventually an inconvenience to some, but an improvement for many. It was great to hear some retailers tell us that if it wasn't for the winter market, they would have closed. That was a really good story. When the recession took away a large portion of our city revenue, we reduced our spending dramatically. All but one of our city council members listened to our financial advisors and refinanced this debt known as a scoop and toss. It was referred to the city that most recently he came back to the city council and told us we will save $10 million on that scoop and toss and allowed the city to build a new parking garage at the lowest interest rates in recent history. It also reduces our annual debt service, giving us about $600,000 a year to put towards more pressing matters. While history may see our recent past as some of the city's darkest, considerable light is now shining at the end of again on Easton, and our immediate future looks even brighter. And that light coming is not an oncoming train. In a word, the state of the city is strong. The sense of community in Easton is palpable. It always has been. You feel it whenever you come to Easton. Visitors tell me that all the time. They too may not live here, but they feel the vibrancy when they come to our city. And it's not just our downtown, it's our neighborhoods. They come to our neighborhoods. Right now, the chief operating officer of Bicycling Magazine, who works across the street, bought a home in the West Ward. And moved his family there. He's not a single person. He's a wife and 2 kids. I'm certain that Easton's best days lies ahead. As generations of Eastonians have done before us, my team and I will continue to work tirelessly to strive to create an even better Easton for generations that will follow. Rarely in the history has a city had the opportunities we have right now in front of us. The opportunity to make generational and transformational change, to leap forward towards a better, brighter future. The influx of pandemic's recovery money, federal, state, and local infrastructure investment, and the strength and generosity of our private sector have all made available unprecedented resources for us. Like cities across the country, we still have to work to ensure that we all feel welcome. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a new label for us. It's what we've always strived for in Easton. We've made those words the hallmark of every one of our departments, especially human services. We have done well and can do even more. Within the next 60 days, I will have an ordinance to City Council that gives a preference to city residents to become a city employee, but for civil service positions. Police and fire, as you know, are not hired by the city administrator and his staff. They're hired based on the testing services. Make no mistake, we have some of the best public employees that we will always hire the most qualified, but city residents should have some preference. We need policy direction from City Council to those that do the hiring. There is a resolution on the books from probably 25 years ago that does exactly that. I will also announce tonight that Easton has been selected by the Lehigh Valley Juneteenth Committee and will officially celebrate the end of slavery in our country with a flag raising on June 17th. But more importantly, we've been chosen to host the inaugural Lehigh Valley Parade, Juneteenth Parade, on June 19th. Juneteenth is believed to be the oldest African-American holiday, with celebrations going back as far as 1866. It's now time for all of us to honor it as well. The first thing we need to continue to make our city safe. We are proud to announce tonight that our crime rate has decreased again last year and every year for the last 15. Last year, Easton experienced an overall decrease in crime of 24.9, I repeat that, 24.9%. Part 1 crimes alone, the most violent, decreased by 10.87%, and Part 2 crimes decreased by 29.48%. But the most significant, I believe the most significant stat that comes out of the annual report of the police department is that calls for service decreased by 10.56%. That's really telling us that people don't have 11% fewer people had a need to call our police department. I credit our police officers and our neighbors who are their eyes and ears. We made safety one of our primary goals and invested money into our police department, making sure they have the proper equipment, facilities, and vehicles to keep our residents and officers safe. One of the officers approached me the other day, it was Monday, and was thanking me for the amount of money that we put into the police department. Not just the police headquarters when they were in the substation, in the parking garage, but also he was telling me about the cars they used to have. The mechanics would take a steel road sign and weld it to the floorboard so they would stop the holes from going through, their feet from going through like
Fred Flintstone.
Freddie Flintstone doing. But we've made it a real, if you see the police vehicles and all of our vehicles, when I was here in the 80s, believe me, we didn't have any money. And our employees worked in the worst conditions you can imagine as far as vehicles. Our vehicles today are replaced regularly, and I want to thank City Council for your support, especially for the purchase of the Bearcat. As you know, it's $170,000, I think, and the Bearcat is, some people called it a tank. It doesn't have any ammunition, doesn't have any firing mechanisms on it, but it does have one thing, that it will not allow the bullets to pierce the body armor and hurt a resident or officer who's in that vehicle. That, I think, is most important, to keep our officers and residents safe. I feel very proud of our police. Last year, the department received its 5th reaccreditation, which placed our police department in the premier status. Yes, the policies put in place saved us a ton of money, lots of money. People say, how are you doing it? by not spending money foolishly. We don't have lawsuits and settlements like we had in the 80s and 90s. We don't have that in the early 2000s. We don't have that anymore. We fight the fight, but we don't settle. But the fact is, with the new things like the body cameras, spending the money on body cameras is probably the best thing we ever did. Our fire department hasn't gone unnoticed during this time either. Our current focus has been on equipment. We purchased 2 new pumpers. One pumper was donated by Lafayette College, and a new tiller truck purchase was ordered for $1.7 million. New radios are being purchased, plus location devices. We want to keep our firefighters safe when they enter a building. We want to know if they go down. We will also be purchasing a new command vehicle. Some of this equipment was purchased with grants that we never applied for before. But the fire department needs facilities. As you heard last night with the fire chief and the city administrator, we need to start looking towards a new central station. We keep trying to recruit female firefighters. It's going to happen within the next couple of years. We need facilities to have separate, especially bathrooms and locker rooms. Financially, the city did extremely well also. Our growth has had a positive impact on our earned income tax. I know some people question it, but January, numbers are in, and Mr. Liznecki was $900,000? $900,000 more than last January. So our earned income tax is working because as our population is growing, it's growing people with income. As I always say, we are not gentrifying Easton. Let's say we had 8,000 of the 25,000 that lived in the city. Now we're up to 29,000. Let's say we had 8,000 low income and hardworking poor families. Those 8,000 did not flee to the suburbs. It was the wealthier upper middle class and upper class that left. Those people stayed because they had to. They didn't have a choice. So if we bring in more people with disposable income, we still have the same number of low-income families and people, but we have a lower percentage. And that's how we've been growing the city. Our most significant success was our positive review by our credit agency, Standard & Poor's. They confirmed our management of city finances. Standard & Poor's reaffirmed our A rating and increased our outlook from negative to stable. Post-pandemic, this was just a few months ago that Standard & Poor's gave us this. That is remarkable for a city to not only maintain their credit rating, but get an increase. Check your notes and see where the other cities are. Same size. S&P noted several drivers behind the positive shift, including the strategic decision to restructure debt in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic when rates were at their historic lows. As mayor, one of the roles I have is promoting and encouraging this economic development program. We have a wonderful Department of Community and Economic Development led by John Kingsley, and I can tell you that the total valuation of our new construction in the city has now exceeded $1 billion with a B, $1 billion, and that is remarkable. Yes, we could talk about back in the 20th century of how this city started to grow and how we were the largest of the 3 cities and a wealthy city. And so the controversy is when we build a new building and people get upset, where were they when we built the Hotel Easton? Where were they when we knocked a 3-story building down and built a 9-story Alpha building? We need growth. Growth is really important for any business, and we are a business. Without growth, you become stagnant. Without stagnant, you have no new revenue. Without new revenue, you can't pay for inflationary increases. This year, we will see the completion of the Commodore. It's just about done. Within the next couple of months, the apartments will be done. With the Department of Community and Economic Development, we're working with a business to go into the first floor, and we're really, really excited if we can get it. That would be really good. But we'll see the completion of the Commodore. The restaurant will not be completed until the following year, probably 2025 or 2024, 25. That is not scheduled to be open until 2024, late 2024. This year, we'll see the completion of the Watermark Phase 1 down at the Governor Wolf parking lot, the start of construction on the Confluence and the Marquee. And I don't know who's putting the rumors out there, but I get a call from the Lehigh Valley Live telling me that, oh, we hear the Confluence isn't going to happen. What? They're calling us every day. They want to settle. They've already bought the lot. They want to just get their approvals so they can move. Marquis, J.B. Riley, we're in communication with them every week. Those projects are still on target. And of course, the hotel on Route 611. We're also working on finalizing an environmental cleanup of the Easton Iron and Metal property and its future development. That will not happen at least until 2024, because next year we do the environmental cleanup. On the neighborhood side, we have appropriated $2 million in facade restoration grants, which is expected to leverage more than $5 million in neighborhood housing improvements and witness the long-awaited reclamation of the blighted Black Diamond site and vacant GAF building on the city's south side. There are smaller and equally more important developments also taking place, such as the reuse of the former blighted buildings at Charles and Wilkes-Barre Street and Charles and Kleinhahn Street. If you haven't been over to that area, you need to be over there. The Charles and Wilkes-Barre Street is the former Brother Bright soul food store, and it was used for a warehouse for the last many years. It was blighted, and right now it's going to be, I think, 4 or 6 apartments, and it's beautiful. It looks really nice. The Easton Public Works Department is responsible for maintenance and management of the city's physical assets and infrastructure and has an annual budget of roughly $17 million. The department consists of the following bureaus: highway, parks, public buildings, public facilities, engineering, traffic services, recreation and neighborhood services, fleet management, wastewater and stormwater management, and sanitary sewer utilities, and of course, our newest one that we added a few years ago, urban forestry. The department also provides a diverse array of residential services, including trash and recycling pickup, municipal recycling drop-off, and e-waste events. Youth recreation, which is expanded, neighborhood programming, special event support, street sweeping, and curbside leaf and brush removal. Last week, the expansion of the recreation department was well noted, with over 70 young men and women. Young men was for AAU boys basketball. It was thrilling to be there. We had Coach Jacobs, the high school basketball coach, there talking to the kids. It was a really nice event. 2022 was an extremely busy year for the department as they managed several large projects, including the well-known and often controversial Center Square project. Happy to report that we won our battle with PennDOT. We will get a dedicated walk cycle so that people will not get hit by cars. Right now, there's no dedicated walk. When you're walking across, when it says walk and you walk, there's somebody coming from the right. We will have that. We won that battle. As you know, we don't control the circle. That's state-owned and controlled. The Department of Public Works also completed Ring Road two-way conversion and the 4th Street parking garage, which today I got a picture of the elevators actually framed out and in there. We got the general contractor has agreed to spend the $80,000 for 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. So if you hear this is going to be done in August, that's not true. It's late, and we'll deal with that later when we have a executive session with City Council. The department was able to accomplish its objectives and its annual work plan, which the following were just some of the highlights: the completion of Center Square, the expansion of Northeast and Southeast quadrants. As you see them now, and you know that there's a residential community committee that was appointed to select the art piece that's going to go in the Southeast quadrant. We're looking, as we become more and more of an arts community, we want to give art. I'm working with the Haza group to do a sculpture on our Native Americans. I believe we've really missed the boat of not having something that signifies the Native Americans who lived here before the European settlers got here. So we're working on raising the funding for that, and it looks like it's going to be down at Scott Park, is where Paza would like it. If you're not where Paza is the American Indian troop that works out of here that are made up of the Lenape, and the Iroquois. Also, the conversion of the 300 block to one-way east, we did that this year. Completion of the in-depth hydraulic study of the proposed Lehigh River pedestrian bridge. As you know, we are seeking grants, and we got a grant for $50,000 to do the design of the pedestrian bridge that links Larry Holmes Drive by the pump station to Roosevelt Park, which is a state park where the Canal Museum used to be. That would make ourselves much safer than bikers and hikers walking down 611 across the Dr. Smith Bridge, down 611 on that very narrow sidewalk where cars are zooming by. We also received achievement of the Platinum certification through the Pennsylvania League of Cities Municipal Sustainable PA. completion of the year 4 of the MS4 permit process, completion of the energy and use assessment, and completion of the Easton Environmental site planning process to do as you know, we got a $1 million grant to clean up that site. And that's not from Easton Iron Metal. We shouldn't call it Easton. It was a site that was a junkyard where PCBs were, old transformers were built or deposited. We're also looking at the completion of the Wood Avenue improvements design phase so that we get that project done. It's been on the books now for 3 years. Coordination of the Bushkill Dam removal process, which is tentatively scheduled for 2023, and completion of the wastewater treatment disc filter treatment process. If you haven't been down to the wastewater treatment plant lately, you should go down there. And in addition to all of that, the department also planted an additional 200 street trees. I know that street trees are controversial. There's no doubt about that. We have more controversy and people mad at us because we don't trim their trees. So within the next 2 years, I'd like to tell City Council that within the next 2 years, we would like to hire 2 people to do nothing but trim street trees. It's the biggest complaint we get. We plant a tree, but the property owner has to maintain it. So let's not just plant it, let's also maintain it. In the Human Resources Department, our former manager resigned to take a position with the private sector, but is Lucille here tonight? Estelle? She's not here tonight? Okay. She was introduced to City Council. Was hired, and all positions were filled, and our goals next year include continuing the performance review program that we started, developing a policy handbook, and more training opportunities. City operations continues to see significant improvements in internal and external information technology. New servers were installed. Thank you, Dustin. As new servers were installed, new parking system software was selected for on-street and off-street parking and will be implemented this year, hopefully within the next 30 days. And a citizen engagement tool was, if you haven't asked a bugler, was integrated into our city website. On their city website is a bugler. It says Ask the Bugler. You punch in any number, any question you have about the city of Easton that a resident may have, like maybe it's a building permit. Type in building permit, and an email goes directly to the person who's responsible for that. Our Planning and Codes Department continues to be busy based on the success of our economic development program. The department received last year 1,738 applications, of which 1,315 were construction permits for 1,731 trades, an increase over the previous year of 11.75%. Easton is still growing. A slowdown in property transfer taxes was expected because you don't need to do a home inspection if there's no houses on the market. But the 423 buyer notification inspection requests was 460 less than the year before, but that's okay because these applications resulted in more inspections, 2,392 permanent inspections, a 5% increase, and 546 buyer notification inspections, a 61.8% decrease. Other applications processed included the 68 certificates of appropriateness, 348 zoning, and 47 zoning appeals. A new addition to the implementation of Open Gov services online, and we now have an online portal to receive complaints, which resulted in 162 reports submitted. Code officers investigated 2,283 cases, which resulted in improved quality of life and the collection of $2,610 in quality of life tickets. The Health Bureau issued 491 food establishment licenses throughout the year, of which 11 were new facilities. 8 were a change in operator. Additionally, the Bureau processed 9 handicap parking requests, 4 tattoo licenses, 1 salvage yard license, and additionally 323 temporary food service licenses for our festivals. Health inspections increased to 437 during the year, an increase of 14%. Working with the Mayor Department of Community and Economic Development, received $8 million in RCAP grants for the 4th Street Parking Garage, the Marquee, and Watermark. In addition, and that doesn't count the ones we already have for the Confluence, et cetera. But we got $8 million last year in new grants. And we want to thank the state, Representative Bob Freeman, State Senator Lisa Boscola, and Governor Wolf, especially, for making that available to our city so that we can continue to grow. We also received approval for an additional $5.7 million in state and federal grants to assist city departments and priority community and economic development projects, which is in your program when you get it. Applied for an additional 11 grants totaling $4.7 million. Those decisions are still pending. $4 million for the Easton Environmental if Nurture Nature decides to relocate there. That still is up in the air, but we have the $4 million set aside in case they want to. Total approved grants equated to 99% of the requested amount, and the total maintained an astonishing 83% win rate on grant applications submitted. Closed out of an additional $1.2 million in grants that were approved the previous year, but projects were completed in 2022. And of course, all the work that was done on the winter market, which also raised in coordination with GDP more than $70,000 in total grants for that project and sponsorships. Processed 37 vendor applications for participation in our winter market, yielding $25,000 in fees to support the program and related expenses. Attracted over 45,000 attendees to the event during our 5-weekend run. Led a program development and managed outdoor dining in year 3 and developed funding for the program and branded it as Easton Alfresco. Processed more than 15, we're doing outdoor dining again. Our recommendation as a city council is to do it again. Why? Because if I drive through the city tonight, every chair may be filled, but I don't know that. But when spring and summer and fall come, and I'm driving through the city, I see people outside, I feel the vibrancy. Right now, you're not going to feel the vibrancy. It's a little cooler tonight, so nobody's outside dining. And that's why we think outdoor Easton Alfresco is so important. They also assisted us in our preparation when our administration met with, or by phone Zoom call with S&P. We presented a really good presentation, I think, and DCED put it together with the help of the finance department and the city administrator. I'd like to thank the Easton residents, the business community, and my fellow council members, city administrator, campus, and all of our city staff who work together to create a city beyond what any of us could imagine alone. We have a sense of urgency to work together to get where we want and where we need to be as a city. We spent a lot of time developing our downtown. I'm not denying it. The downtown is the heart of our city. It pumps blood to all the other parts. But I can show you evidence of how that is now starting to help our out. For example, Haggai Feiner's downtown. Yes, he's also developed 915 Northampton Street. And others that have done the exact same thing. We have projects, the two big projects on the south side were blighted, and they've been blighted for 30 years. The Black Diamond was the vision of John Robinson, who unfortunately passed away right before it started, right after groundbreaking. That project, the mill at Easton, is now housing 52 families that couldn't afford to live in our city. They're here. They're staying here. Spent a lot of time developing that, and we have a lot of heart that pumps vigor into the rest of the city, and it's happening. We see it moving up Northampton Street into the westward. We see it moving over to the south side. We see people moving back to College Hill. College Hill was a place where people didn't want to live. We now have the CEO of Crayola living on College Hill. The last 3 CEOs of Crayola, an Easton-based industry, top 100, Fortune 100, didn't live here. One lived an hour away. He lives here, and that's really important, I think. It helps bring people into supporting our city. With that in mind of developing the downtown, we also want to develop the whole town. And I'm announcing tonight that I will be setting up 4 neighborhood meetings to seek volunteers from each of those neighborhoods to form a neighborhood advisory task force, very similar to the task force on affordable housing. But this one's going to decide about what's needed for each neighborhood. For example, my goal, I make no bones about it, is to build a community center. I don't think there should be disparity between a kid who grows up in Easton or a kid who grows up in the township. But we have that right now. We don't have a community center that offers a facility large enough to play basketball other than the Boys and Girls Club on the south side. Saints is a great program. I was in the Saints program my whole youth. I played ball there every season. I was even in their band. I was on their board for 30 years. I was president for 2 of those years. We're not trying to replace the Saints. That's another rumor going around. We're not trying to replace the Saints. They know that we will partner with them and allow them to program the new community center if it's built in the West Ward. I believe it needs to be in the West Ward. We don't have anything in the West Ward other than the Saints. I was at the Saints when Chubby Rutt was there, started Little League Wrestling. We're the home of Little League Wrestling right here in the city of Easton. Bobby Weaver, gold medalist for the Olympics in 1984. I mean, there's a strong sense of history here in Easton, and we need to make people aware of that. What we do today will shape tomorrow. We have a very real opportunity to build a better tomorrow, brighter, and a future for all of us and generations to come. Our time is now. I challenge you to be unabashedly enthusiastic about our city. I know I am. We say it to ourselves all the time. You can call me the biggest cheerleader for the city you want, but we want everyone to have that positive attitude about their city. They want to be able to go like the football team that if I was showing you the slides, the last slide is the Easton High School Red Rover football team coming out with the Easton flag. It wouldn't have happened 15 years ago. We are unstoppable in character, determination, and progress. Our journey isn't over yet in Easton. We've already done so much together, but I know the full potential of our city is yet to be seen. We will continue to work together to make Easton the best days stand before us. Even with all that achieved, there's so much to do. Our first goal is to implement the recommendations of the Easton, the Mayor's Affordable Housing Task Force. Every American deserves a shelter, a roof over their heads. And for us to know, for me to go outside tonight, to go through the parking garage and see homeless, that just shouldn't matter. It shouldn't be. Not in the United States of America. We're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world. We've got to take care of everybody, not just those that can afford it themselves. Studies indicate that America is 1 million housing units short. Our plan is to prioritize keeping residents in their homes and closing the racial wealth gap by boosting home ownership. There's no doubt that the average American's greatest wealth is in the equity of their home. So, yeah, we're building a lot of apartments, and young kids, the paradigm has shifted. They want to live in an apartment. They don't want to cut grass. They don't want to shovel snow. They don't want to paint their house. They don't want to do any of that. But yet, they're not building equity. They're throwing their money away every month to somebody else. That equity is the way we can get the poorer people in our community to build wealth, family wealth, to pass on to future generations. Our second goal is to implement the climate action plan that we've developed over the last few years. I know not everyone agrees about climate change, but I'm going to tell you something. The worst thing we could do is nothing. And if we do something and it doesn't happen, great. We achieved what we did. We saved humankind. The consequences of doing nothing are unimaginably horrible. And that's why I, along with 467 other mayors, signed the Paris Accord in light of the fact that the White House at the time didn't do it. Another goal is to build a community center for our youth and seniors. More than anything else, the basis for all of these goals must be and continues to be a clean and safe city with fiscal responsibility. As I said, the state of our city is strong because of our character, our instincts, and the work that we do and are committed to doing to better ourselves. I know that sometimes progress isn't easy. Sometimes we have to persevere, and every inch of improvement is difficult. But every derelict house taken down, every pothole filled, every deadly weapon seized, every youth that can finally spend a fun and safe day in a community center, park, or pool, that's what's worth fighting for. That's what's worth having, and we intend to win that battle. As Easton continues to grow, we must ensure that our city's prosperity makes it to every corner of our city. This can only happen if our city remains fiscally responsible, keeping costs to the citizens down so that we don't have them leaving because they can't afford to live there. Seniors are on fixed incomes. Do we forget about them? No. We got to keep them in mind because fixed income is tough. That means the inflation, every year you lose 3% of your income because inflation goes up. We're happy to say that last year, after being canceled or scaled back, all of our festivals were back, bigger and better than ever. We actually made money on Bacon Fest. We'll talk about that when GDP gives her update. Because our parking went up to $20 and we were getting it so easily, and our expenses I think were like $14,000 in overtime, and we took in $20,000 in parking. But while we continue to navigate the long-term effect of the pandemic, we do so confidently, working towards a promising future. Through it all, Easton has come out stronger. We've prioritized the health of our community members, continued to expand technology, and supported our businesses with programs that enabled them to navigate the pandemic and continue developing initiatives to address the economic recovery, homelessness, climate change, diversity, and more. I'm excited to build on our tremendous work in the coming year. We remain committed to navigating the challenges that arise, and I'm hopeful our journey together will result in Easton's continued triumphs. I was born on the south side and raised on the south side neighborhood of Easton. My wife Pam and I still live there. And my entire life, I've poured my heart and soul into the community that I love. And many of you have also. I started with my involvement in the church youth organization on the south side of St. Mary's, and I was appointed to the board at St. Anthony's Youth Center while I was still in college. When I opened up my store, I was visited by former Mayor Mike McFadden, and he got me to join the Easton Area JCs, one of the greatest organizations that I was a member of. And I served as president and chairman of many of the city festivals, including Community Spirit Day and the first combined Easton Phillipsburg Halloween Parade. How does it feel to be mayor? Busy. But it's also so much more than that. It can feel surreal and stressful, exhausting and empowering. It feels like the most important work in the world. But more than anything, it feels like a gift. To be able to get up every day and go to work for the city that you love and the people who love it too, people unafraid to do the things differently, willing to meet crisis with creativity and reach deep into the dirt to pull up the roots of the challenges that block our view of the sky. All the pieces are in place. We need to work for a brighter future. I'd like to leave you with one final thought as I close. As I told the Cub Scout group that I met with this afternoon, young people are 20% of our city's population, but they're 100% of our future. We must do everything we can to ensure that they become engaged in our community and make sure that those members of our community get engaged because they are our future. Together, we will continue our course of positive change. We will never let Easton become a city that stops reaching up towards the progress we know that is possible. I would like to thank you and wish you all well this evening, and God bless the city and the people of the Easton. Thank you. We'll have a copy for all the city council members, including the full annual report. Moving on to public comment. Anyone in the office and in the audience would like to address city council on agenda items only? I see we have a few students here. Are you all from East Area High School? Who's your teacher? Oh, good. All right, we'll give you a quiz after it's over. It's only 25 questions. Anyone? No one?
They're essay questions.
Whoa, Mr. Shear, chat box. Consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
We had bill number 11, which would amend the 2023 general fund budget that was previously introduced. We have bill number 12 that would amend the pool fees for the 2023 season that was previously introduced. And we have a resolution approving an agreement with the YMCA to manage the pools for the 2023 season.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Move to second discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana? And Mayor Panto?
Aye. There's no reports received by council tonight, so I'll move on right on to committee reports. Vice Mayor Brown, Finance.
I have no report, Mayor.
Economic Development, Councilman O'Connell.
Mayor, the Public Art Review Committee met today to review and rate the 10 submissions of public art pieces for the southeast quadrant in Center Square. The 10 ratings from each committee member will be averaged, and we hope to select probably the top 3 for further consideration. And among the factors considered, although this isn't all of them, are artistic integrity, the cost, and completion time. I will keep the council updated on these.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning and Codes Committee, Councilmember Sultana.
Well, we had an informal and
very brief meeting discussing the ordinance that I'm proposing. One is banning the sale of puppy mill puppies in pet stores, and the other bans the declining of cats. Drafted ordinances were shared within the city hall, and after many discussions back and forth with Mr. Joel, Mr. Campos, and the chief, we are finally on the same page. The ordinances will be introduced at the next council meeting. Finger crossed. Ms.
Okay.
Rita.
Mrs. Sultana, that's going to be one ordinance, though, combining both
So
of them
yeah,
into, yes.
sure. Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
all right.
Thank you.
Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Ruggles.
Just want to report that we did have a report from the fire chief last night on the facilities that the fire company has. It's interesting to learn that our Southside station was built in 1860, still in use. And so, I think we're going to be doing a little bit of work on trying to figure out how we're going to move forward in the future with our fire stations. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Councilmember Ettinger.
I have no report, Mayor.
Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan.
I have no report, Mayor.
Report of the City Solicitor, Mr. Shearer.
Thank you. I'd like to report two executive sessions. One last night dealing with leasehold, and tonight we discussed the pending involvement with litigation, so to speak. And I can specifically report that we discussed the Lower Saucon Township landfill. I can also report, because it is public record, that Jeremy Clark attended along with Louis Campos last Monday, and the city was granted interested party status, which would mean that the city would have a right to actively participate. But in the end, even if its participation is rather passive, it would have the right to review whatever the determinations are and have standing if it felt appropriate, which would only happen with your approval, to participate in any objections or appeals. At this point in time, the primary function will be where Mr. Clark will monitor what is happening. The interested party status was provided on the basis that the city has concerns, but the actual hearing will deal with the subject matter itself, and as opposed to any specific position that we're prepared to make at this time. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Shearer. In light of the state of the city, I'll forego my report and go right to the city administrator.
Mayor, real quick, tonight on City Council's agenda for you, the administration is putting a resolution to support the creation of a charitable fund through the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation. The creation of the charitable fund will allow individuals and corporations to make charitable contributions that will come back then to the city in the form of a grant that will support the recreation department. We're taking baby steps here, in so to speak, in terms of looking at certain programs that individuals can make a contribution. I will say there's already been interest, and one donation that has been presented to me in the form of $500 that would go through this charitable fund. I have real quickly today in the audience who I wanted to introduce to you, Erica Petrozzoli, who is the new CEO of the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation. Erica has taken over for Bernie Story, if you all may know him. The Community Foundation is Lehigh Valley wide. Also, the Community Foundation has asked us for a short term office space, if you will, at least twice a month. So they're coming in here into the city of Easton in the old solicitor's office, and then they meet with nonprofits and Eastonians and to talk about the Community Foundation. But anyway, I would like Erica to come up to the podium to introduce herself. She is an important figure in the Lehigh Valley, for what she does and how she affects nonprofits, not only in Easton but in all the cities and municipalities. So Erica, if you don't mind, please make your way up to the podium. You're going to have to introduce yourself, which is par for the course is for the clerk and also give your address, which you can give your business address as well if you'd like.
Okay, sounds good. My name is Erica Riddle Petrozelli, the president and CEO of the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation. We're located, our home office is 840 West Hamilton in Allentown, 18101. So Lewis asked me to say a few words about what the Community Foundation is and what we actually do in Easton and what we're looking to do through this creation of a charitable fund, as we call it. So the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation actually has a 55-year history here in the Lehigh Valley, connecting generous individuals and families and organizations to important causes in our community. And that's what a community foundation does. We are a critical and permanent resource for the nonprofit sector. Community foundations exist across the country. We're all cousins with the same heritage, which is place-based philanthropy. We are encouraging and nurturing our neighbors, our residents, to be giving back to the place that they live, to this geography. We serve Lehigh and Northampton counties as well as Upper Bucks. Our partnership with Easton is really critical to our work. We've been here for quite a while. Recent grants or financial support includes support to the pool project at 3rd Street Alliance, to the Carl Sterner Arts Trail. We have an endowment fund for Family Connection of Easton to help provide prudent investment management to their donor dollars. Even last spring, actually, Mayor Panto joined us for a walkabout down Northampton Street. We visited the State Theater with Shelley Brown, the Sigel Museum. We had lunch at GEDP at the Public Market. And so there was about 20 generous individuals that we brought downtown to hear from the mayor and see the revitalization and see what's happening here. And that's what we do. We are a connector, and we try to provide an easy and convenient place for individuals to give back to their community. And that's what we're doing with the charitable fund for Easton Sports and Recreation, is providing that trusted, independent, easy way for individuals to support their neighbors. Did I cover everything you were hoping for at this time, Lewis?
I think so. If there's any
Very good,
questions,
Erica.
if there's any questions or anyone wants to know more about the foundation, you can certainly. What is your website URL?
lvcfoundation.org.
Okay, it's a player in the philanthropic industry here in the valley. If you don't know about them, you should know about them. I highly recommend that you do a little research, and if you'd like, you can contact me. I'm sure Erica, or we can connect you, and we can talk a little bit more about what they do. Those are just some of the organizations. I think they touched upon every organization. I'm on the board. I was brought onto the board some years ago through Bill Murphy, and the reason why I'm on the board is because they wanted someone from Easton to help steward the foundation's dollars into this area, and I can provide input. So, thank you, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's no anyone else, Mr. Campos? Anything else
that's
to
it.
report? There's no correspondence, no unfinished business. We'll move right into new business, Madam Clerk.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan that would approve a job description for the new position of victims advocate.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second discussion.
I have one thing, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I saw District Attorney Hauk this morning, and first of all, he backs this program 100%, but he recommended, and I'm just putting this out there first to see what you think. He recommended that it should be called community advocate rather than victims advocate, because we're stressing our outreach to the community. I just wanted to bring that up, and Chief Scalzo, if you had any comment on it, that's fine too. But if
Chief Scalzo, City of Easton Police Department, 48 North 4th Street. I have no problem with that, with the name change. That wouldn't change necessarily the details or the job description of the position. So change the name to community.
it's just a name change, not any other change.
And maybe in light of trying to avoid any confusion between victim advocates that the county provides, I have no problem with that.
You're going to move that as an amendment?
Yeah. All right. If is everybody okay? Well, yeah, I'll move. I will move the name change as an amendment.
No second.
Moved in second discussion. Roll call, Madam Clerk. on the amendment.
This is on the amendment then. Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And then we need the vote to approve it and it
Go ahead.
totally.
Second.
We had, Mr. Milan introduced it and Mrs. Sultana moved it. So the vote would be Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
And Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Okay, I'll change that then.
Moving on to letter C.
Okay.
I'm sorry, letter B.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan that would approve or amend the 2023 salary and wage for this new position, victims advocate, which now would be called community advocate.
Moved.
Second.
Moving to second discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And then we have a resolution being introduced by Mayor Panto that would approve an agreement of sorts with the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation, which they just spoke about, which would, money for our recreation program.
Move it.
Second.
Move it.
Second.
In moving the, as a former school teacher, and I see Ken Green in the audience, education, we all know that keeping kids busy is really important to having them grow up to become bona fide adults in the community. And I just don't, Louis and I have talked about this for his last 7 years, and we've increased our recreation department from a half a person to one person to two people. I just think that we need to do more, not just for our youth. I talk about it all the time. I'd like to see a checker tournament or chess tournament for seniors down in a circle. Put some tables down there and chairs, and let's get some people. We do, again, this year on August 18th, we'll have Senior Day, but seniors deserve more than one day, and they deserve activity. And I just believe that this recreation grant opportunity that we can actually go out and solicit funds. When I said at the press conference yesterday, Erica was there with me. You know, when I was a kid, we fielded 12 teams in every sport. Well, the sports at that time were just basketball, football, and baseball. We didn't have lacrosse, soccer, volleyball, and all that other stuff. But we fielded 12 teams, and they were fielded and sponsored. Every team was sponsored by one of our clubs, whether it's the Moose Club, the Elks, the PAL, Castell Club where I played. But we don't do that anymore because we ran into problems with the solicitor, especially at the time with Mr. Murphy, not allowing us to raise money and doing that. So, because, for example, what if they're an organization that is a racist organization? We certainly don't want to wear their uniforms with our kids. So we didn't go after that. And this gives us an opportunity to do it well. And I really appreciate your offer here, Erica, and working with Lehigh Valley Foundation. It's gonna be good. Good for kids.
Okay, and then the vote?
Just one more thing. Maybe we can, since we're establishing this through the city, maybe we can call upon the administration to make a donation if we can find some extra money from the budget to this, as good stewards. So
Okay.
we contribute to we contribite to other organizations. I think we can find a nominal amount to make an initial contribution to the foundation.
So this is a way for individuals and corporations to make a charitable contribution
Right.
and receive some sort of tax benefit.
Sure.
And then it comes to the city as a grant immediately. It's
Okay.
It's a pass-through.
Okay.
So it's not, and it's coming to us to support our recreation programs like
Okay.
the one that we're starting, several of them. So it doesn't quite work the way you just explained it.
And
Okay.
we are tax exempt, so it doesn't do us
Yeah,
any good.
This
Shuffle
is not
money.
this is not support the foundation
Yep.
per se in their operating budget. This is strictly comes to the city of Easton.
My apologies for missing
It's okay.
then.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
this point in the meeting, we're at public comment on any item that, of concern to the city, whether it be question, comments, or concern. Anybody would like to address city council, please come up, give your name and address. Young ladies, would you like to address city council?
Oh, come on.
You'll get extra credit, I'm sure.
Your
Good
name and address,
evening.
please.
Victoria Optoff Cordero, 1682 Woodfield Drive in Bethlehem, Lower Saucon Township.
Could you spell your last name, please?
It's OPTHOF as in Frank, hyphen CORDARO. So I am here tonight as a member of the Citizens for Responsible Development, which I'm sure that you have heard is the grassroots organization of community members in the Lehigh Valley that are working to save the 275 acres that overlooks the Lehigh River and Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Corridor leading into Easton. And so I'm here tonight, number one, to thank you for all of your care and concern for our community member, Ginger Petrie, who presented to you earlier this month, and also for your diligent and very careful, thoughtful review and coming and getting party status on the 27th. I can tell you that you are in great company. You have Hellertown Borough, you have Freemansburg Borough, you have Bethlehem Township, you have the DNL, of course, you have the Shad River Association, Delaware Shad River Association, there's a trout organization, the Saucon Creek Watershed Association, and also on Thursday, after the first two hearings that occurred, Northampton County voted in an 8-0 unanimous bipartisan vote to oppose the landfill expansion on that forested land that overlooks the DNL Trail. So I just wanted to give you an update on that and thank you very much for your concern. I also wanted to implore you to consider continuing participation in the conditional use hearings. They will continue tomorrow and go all the way through March. We anticipate that the landfill will present a number of witnesses to try and support their conditional use application. And then after that point in time, the other, anybody who has party status would be able to present their own witnesses and testimony. And I think that the Easton certainly has a concern with their Humor Park and the DNL's National Museum being headquartered there as the center point of the DNL Trail. As the DNL has noted, you have a number of different nonprofit organizations and community groups that use your park, which is a beautiful park, as the hub to either start a bike or walk or run or end a bike, walk, or run. You also have all the kids playing in the park there. You have a wonderful facility, and we are hopeful to keep that facility beautiful and to maintain the tourism and economic benefits you retain from having such a wonderful place for your residents and everybody visiting the Lehigh Valley to come. So I want to thank you again for everything that you have done so far, and we look forward to working with you and with the other municipalities and organizations. And I'm happy to offer any answers for you if you have any other questions.
Any questions for Victoria?
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address City Council? Seeing none?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Moved in second. Roll call, please.
Go Pards.
Go Pards, that's right. We're getting
Mr.
ready.
O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Night, everybody.
Chief, do you have a minute?